So, you think you know New York? Let me guess. You're picturing Times Square, glowing like a giant LED billboard, pizza slices the size of your face, and subway rats that could probably file for citizenship. Cute, but here's the plot twist. Outside the city, New York isn't all glitz and Empire State of Mind. Nope, step a few hours north, and suddenly you're in towns where snow is a year-round personality trait. Half the buildings look like they're auditioning for a ghost hunting show. And revitalization means someone painted a mural next to a liquor store. This is the side of New York they don't put on postcards. The side where people stay, not because it's glamorous, but because they've already survived 47 winters and moving feels like admitting defeat. The kind of places where folks brag about affordable housing, but forget to mention that the affordable house comes with a roof leak, a squirrel tenant, and a heating bill that'll make you cry into your chicken riggies. So buckle up, because we're about to count down the New York towns you should never, ever move to. And hey, if you've ever been to one of these places, or worse, lived there, let me know in the comments, because I want to hear your war stories. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and share this video with the friend who swears, I could totally move upstate, it looks so peaceful. Trust me, they need this list. Number 10. Jamestown, the town that time forgot. Jamestown. Sounds like a place where folks sip imported wine under string lights while discussing local art exhibits and weekend farmers markets. In reality, it's more like a town where those string lights burnt out in 2004, and no one's gotten around to replacing them because we've been meaning to, but the budget. Once proudly known as the Pearl City, Jamestown now feels more like a fake pearl from a discount jewelry bin. Dull, scratched, and sitting in a plastic case no one opens. The crime rate? An anxiety-inducing 42 per 1,000 residents. That's a 1 in 24 chance you'll become the star of someone's true crime Facebook post. You don't walk your dog here, you escort it like it's a celebrity in need of protection. The median household income hovers at $41,923, and with more than 25% of residents living below the poverty line, the local economy runs on stretching dollars and waiting for the next clearance sale. Jobs? Oh, they exist. But many come with more hours than benefits, and the kind of wages that make you consider extreme couponing as a side hustle. Healthcare? Sure, but don't expect it to be close, cheap, or in-network. Yes, you can buy a house here for under $80,000, which sounds great until you realize it's because no one else wants to live in it either. Think century-old plumbing, character that smells suspiciously like mildew, and drafty windows that double as a free air conditioning system in winter. That bargain price is less deal of the century, and more, congratulations, you've adopted a money pit. And here's the kicker. This town wasn't always on the ropes. Jamestown was once a buzzing manufacturing hub. Factories roared, neighborhoods thrived, and Main Street was where you'd spend Saturday nights. Then, deindustrialization hit like a wrecking ball, shuttering plants, gutting the tax base, and leaving behind a trail of boarded-up storefronts. What replaced them? Mostly service jobs, the kind that keep you busy but never really let you get ahead. Walking downtown now is like flipping through an old yearbook. You see hints of past glory, but the hairstyles are outdated, and everyone's moved on. Storefronts sit empty for years, restaurants open with fanfare only to quietly close, and the most reliable new thing is another thrift shop. City initiatives try to pump life back in, murals, seasonal events, small business grants, but it's like putting a glitter sticker on a cracked phone screen. The mood here? Heavy. Not just in the economy, but in the conversations. Ask a local about the future, and you'll likely hear, "We've been through worse," which is less reassuring and more of a warning label. Sure, there's still community pride, but it's the kind you have to squint to see, hidden under layers of frustration and the occasional resignation that this is just how it is now. Jamestown could bounce back, maybe even surprise people, but as it stands, moving here for the affordable housing is like buying a boat because it was cheap and ignoring the hole in the bottom. Unless your dream is to live in a town where nostalgia is the main industry, you might want to keep this one as a day trip, not a destination. Number 9. Troy, the tech bro that never made it. Troy calls itself the Collar City, but these days it feels more like a necktie that's been dipped in coffee and left to dry in the sun. Once upon a time, this riverside city flexed its industrial biceps with shirt factories, steel works, and enough steady jobs to keep families anchored for generations. Fast forward, and now the main thing being manufactured here is disappointment. Crime rate, 39.8 per 1,000 residents. Translation: you've got about a 1 in 25 chance of being part of someone's "you won't believe what happened to me" story. And no, it's not just harmless graffiti or stolen bikes. We're talking assaults, break-ins, and the occasional car theft that makes you consider chaining your vehicle to a lamppost. On paper, the median household income of $50,000 doesn't sound tragic. But when you factor in that 21% of residents live below the poverty line, it's clear a lot of people are barely keeping their heads above water. Downtown Troy will charm you at first with its indie coffee shops, weekend farmers markets, and quirky boutique stores, until you wander a few blocks too far and stumble into crumbling sidewalks, half-renovated apartments, and for-sale signs so old they've faded to pastel. The city's been working overtime to market itself as the next great tech and arts hub. There are co-working spaces with exposed brick, murals that double as Instagram backdrops, and slogans about innovation. But unless you land a job in nearby Albany, the local economy feels more like an open mic night than a booming industry. Some hits, but mostly misses. And then there's the housing deal. Sure, you can get a 2-bedroom under $150,000, but it might come with a mold problem older than the building itself and plumbing that makes noises you'll need an exorcist for. Don't be surprised if you inherit a raccoon roommate or discover that the newly renovated kitchen is really just a coat of paint over 1970s cabinets. Living in Troy is a bit like dating someone with potential who's been about to get it together for the past decade. At some point, potential stops being exciting and starts feeling like purgatory. Unless you're a gambler who loves long shots, you might be better off swiping left on this one. Number 8. Schenectady, the city that forgot to wake up. Schenectady was once the beating heart of innovation, thanks to General Electric. Back then, this city helped power the world. Now, it's running on memories, caffeine, and the occasional tax credit. Crime rate? 39.3 per 1,000 residents. That's a 1 in 25 shot you'll end up on the wrong end of an incident report. And crime here doesn't politely stick to bad neighborhoods. It's sprinkled throughout like hot sauce on a diner breakfast. With a median household income of $54,150, you'd think folks might be doing okay, but 20% still live below the poverty line. Inflation bites hard here, and unless you've got a solid healthcare or education job, the employment landscape feels like an uninspired buffet. Limited choices, nothing exciting, and the good stuff runs out fast. Downtown is a tale of two cities. On one block, you've got boutique coffee shops, cozy wine bars, and colorful murals. On the next, it's shuttered storefronts, a liquor store doubling as the set for a police procedural, and sidewalks that look like they've survived multiple earthquakes. The city keeps trying, with small business grants, cultural events, and art installations, but it's like duct taping a canoe that's already sinking. Housing is affordable, but with affordable comes you'll be fixing this for years. Expect leaky roofs, outdated wiring, and neighbors who've been just about to fix up the place since before Netflix existed. The problem isn't just money, it's momentum. Schenectady has bursts of life, like a street festival or a new brewery opening, but they fizzle out before they can build lasting change. Locals joke that the city is a few good decisions away from greatness, but those decisions always seem to get lost somewhere between the planning board and the budget committee. And let's not ignore the aesthetics. While there are blocks that still have that old-world charm, far too many streets feel like they've been paused mid-demolition. It's a strange mix of quaint and caution tape, which makes walking around an unpredictable experience. You can be sipping a latte in a trendy cafe, and within minutes, find yourself navigating a sidewalk crater that could swallow a toddler. Schenectady isn't beyond saving, far from it, but it's going to take more than murals and microbreweries to put the spark back. Until then, It's a city better visited on a day trip, when you can enjoy the good parts and leave before reality sets in. Number 7. Utica, pasta, poverty, and pain. Utica is that city that greets you with a plate of chicken riggies and a smile, and hopes you don't look too closely at the cracks in the sidewalk on your way in. On the surface, it's got charm. Historic neighborhoods, a strong immigrant community, and a food scene that could rival much larger cities. But scratch that surface, and you'll find an economy that's been limping along for decades. The crime rate sits at 39.4 per 1,000 residents, meaning you've got a 1 in 25 chance of starring in your own police report. And with a median household income of $46,130, paired with a poverty rate of 29.3%, nearly 1 in 3 residents is balancing on the edge of financial strain. This isn't just tight budget territory, this is skip the dentist until it hurts territory. Utica's diversity is one of its strengths. The city is a patchwork of cultures, each bringing their own flavor, literally, to the local cuisine. You can eat your way around the globe without ever leaving downtown. But a vibrant restaurant row can't mask the fact that many neighborhoods are still stuck in an economic time warp. Revitalization efforts happen in bursts. One year, it's a new brewery in a converted warehouse. The next, it's an art walk, trying to lure in tourists. But without the jobs and infrastructure to support them, these bright spots feel like fireworks in the fog. Nice while they last, but gone too soon. And yes, the housing is affordable. You can find a Victorian beauty for under $120,000, but be prepared for a roof that whispers "one more winter" and electrical work that looks like it was done by a raccoon with a toolkit. Heating bills in the long upstate winters will remind you that cheap mortgages don't mean cheap living. The winters here are no joke. Snowfall doesn't just coat the city, it buries it. By February, you'll be calculating the exact weight your roof can hold and wondering if your snowblower qualifies as a dependent. It's charming in December, exhausting in March, and by April, you're pricing plane tickets to anywhere with palm trees. Utica has grit, pride, and potential. But for many, it's a starting point, not a destination. If you can handle the cold, the repairs, and the slow-moving economy, it can be home. For everyone else, it's a great place to visit for dinner, then leave before the first snowflake hits. Number 6. Binghamton. Stuck in buffering mode. Binghamton is the city equivalent of a loading bar that keeps getting stuck at 99%. It's not without charm. There's a riverfront, a university, and just enough old brick buildings to feel historic. But progress here moves like molasses in January. The crime rate is 38.5 per 1,000 residents, so there's about a 1 in 26 chance of an unwanted run-in. Petty theft, property crimes, and the occasional violent incident keep the police blotter busy. It's not chaos, but it's enough to make you keep your car doors locked at all times. Median income sits at $44,331, with 21% of residents living below the poverty line. The job market is a mixed bag. Good if you're in healthcare or education, frustrating if you're in almost anything else. Remote work is a lifeline for many, but the local economy doesn't exactly encourage career growth. Binghamton University is both a blessing and a curse. It pumps life and money into the city, but it also creates a divide between the shiny, well-funded student areas and the neighborhoods still struggling to recover from decades of decline. You can have craft beer and artisanal tacos 1 block over from abandoned houses with peeling paint and overgrown lawns. Housing is cheap, but cheap here often means it needs everything. Expect sloping floors, furnaces that cough more than they heat, and plumbing that sounds like it's practicing for a percussion concert. Landlords often treat repair requests as suggestions rather than obligations. And then there's the weather: snowy winters, muggy summers, and just enough nice days to remind you that you could be outside if the mosquitoes didn't also live here rent-free. The seasonal whiplash keeps you guessing and keeps Home Depot in business. Binghamton isn't a lost cause. There are neighborhoods making slow comebacks, a growing art scene, and residents who care deeply about the place. But if you move here expecting rapid change, you'll be waiting a long time. This city is still buffering, and may be for a while yet. Number 5. Niagara Falls, natural wonder, municipal blunder, Niagara Falls. World famous for its thundering beauty, less famous for the fact that the city wrapped around it has been struggling for decades. It's the ultimate bait and switch. Come for the waterfall, stay for the, oh wait, you're leaving already? The crime rate is 48.3 per 1,000 residents, meaning nearly a 1 in 21 chance you'll have a run-in with trouble. And this isn't limited to the rough parts. Crime here is like the mist from the falls. It travels. Median income is a dismal $43,064, with over 25% of residents below the poverty line. You'd think all that tourist money would help, but most of it flows straight into the pockets of big hotels and corporations that don't exactly hire locally. Meanwhile, the city budget strains to keep up with infrastructure that's been crumbling for years. The potholes? Legendary. You could lose a hubcap, a wheel, or small pets in them, and good luck getting them fixed before the next tourist season. The city's priorities are understandably focused on keeping the visitor areas camera-ready. Housing is cheap, many homes under $100,000, but they're often relics of another era. Century-old structures with original wiring, and not in a charming way, drafty windows and basements with their own indoor ecosystems. Rentals can be a gamble too, with paper-thin walls and neighbors who think weeknight fireworks are a civic duty. What stings most is the proximity to the Canadian side, which is cleaner, safer, and better maintained. It's like living next to the after photo in a makeover commercial while you're still firmly in the before stage. Locals don't love the comparison, but they know it's true. The frustrating part is that Niagara Falls, New York, has the bones to be incredible. The river, the history, the tourism, it's all there. But instead of building a thriving, resident-friendly economy, the city seems stuck in a loop of short-term fixes and missed opportunities. City leaders talk about revitalization every few years, but the results often fizzle out, leaving residents to wonder if anyone's actually steering the ship. Meanwhile, the seasonal tourist wave creates a strange rhythm of boom and bust. Summer months feel alive, sidewalks bustling, restaurants full, but once the weather turns, the streets empty, and businesses close early or shut down entirely until spring. For locals, it's like living in two different cities depending on the month, neither of which quite works year-round. Niagara Falls could be one of New York's shining stars, until the city finds a way to turn its natural asset into a thriving community for residents, not just a backdrop for tourists. It will keep being a paradox. Stunning from a distance, struggling up close. Number 4. Syracuse. Snow, stress, and someday we'll fix it. You want personality? Syracuse has one. It's just the personality of a burnt-out college student with back pain and a permanent coffee dependency. Yes, Syracuse University pumps life into certain parts of town with sports hype and student spending, but take a stroll off campus and the energy shifts fast. One minute you're in hoodie and latte land, the next you're wondering why every second building is boarded up. Crime here isn't an abstract statistic. It's part of the backdrop. With a crime rate of 41.8 per 1,000 residents, you've got about a 1 in 24 shot at becoming a headline. Violent crimes aren't shy, and property crimes are practically part of the neighborhood welcome packet. Cars get broken into so often you'd think it was a competitive sport. Porch pirates? More like the unofficial postal service. Median household income is $45,845, which wouldn't be catastrophic if it weren't paired with a staggering poverty rate of 29.6%. That's nearly a third of the city living paycheck to paycheck, or without a paycheck at all. It's a situation where making ends meet often means creative budgeting, side hustles, and hoping your furnace holds out one more winter. Speaking of winter, let's talk snow. Syracuse is the undisputed heavyweight champion of snow in the United States, averaging over 120 inches a year. That's 10 feet of, why did I move here? Unless you own a snowblower, industrial-strength boots, and an emotional support shovel, you'll be knee-deep in regret by January. And if you think the city keeps up with plowing in all neighborhoods equally, bless your optimistic heart. Revitalization efforts are visible downtown, hip cafes, shiny condos, a modern amphitheater, but they're uneven. A quick drive into the south or west sides reveals decades-old problems still staring you in the face. Underfunded schools, neglected parks, and housing stock that looks one nor'easter away from collapse. Residents joke that the city has two sides, the Instagram side and the reality side you don't see on brochures. Weather aside, Syracuse has another issue: its stop-start economy. Some new jobs come in, but they're often offset by layoffs elsewhere. Unless you're in education, healthcare, or remote work, finding stable employment can feel like running on ice. You're moving, but not getting anywhere. The real heartbreak? Syracuse should be a powerhouse. It's got location, history, and infrastructure that other mid-sized cities would kill for. But without serious investment in long-term citywide improvement, not just downtown polish, it's stuck in limbo. For now, it's a place where you can buy a cheap house, sure, but you'd better budget for a snowplow and a security system before you even unpack. And here's the kicker: locals love it anyway. They'll gripe about the winters, the crime, the potholes, but they'll also fiercely defend the city's quirks, traditions, and unbeatable chicken riggies. Syracuse isn't hopeless, but it's definitely not for the faint of heart. If you move here, prepare to shovel both snow and your expectations. Number 3. Rochester. Where the snow is heavy and the vibes are heavier, Rochester doesn't quietly shuffle onto this list. It barges in like a loud uncle at a wedding, announcing itself with stats you wish you didn't hear. The crime rate? A staggering 58.1 per 1,000 residents. That's the highest so far in our countdown, and translates to a 1 in 17 chance of becoming part of the evening news. And no, this isn't a one rough block kind of crime. From the west side to the inner loop, trouble is sprinkled everywhere like Parmesan on pasta. Violent crime is a particular star here, with assaults, armed robberies, and shootings that keep police scanners buzzing. Property crime tags along for the ride, so while you're checking your front door locks, don't forget the garage, the car, and maybe even your lawn furniture. Streetlights? Let's just say you'll get a crash course in strategic route planning if you want to walk home after dark. The financial picture isn't exactly sunny either. Median household income hovers around $44,027, and 26.6% of residents live in poverty. That's more than a quarter of the city struggling to make ends meet while prices rise and job options stay limited. Sure, there are pockets of opportunity: tech startups, healthcare positions, and university-related jobs. But they're not lifting the entire community out of the rut. The city's been working on revitalization, with projects like Rock the Riverway aiming to turn the waterfront into a destination. The problem? Much of it still feels like an Instagram filter slapped over a cracked phone screen. Pretty from afar, but the problems underneath are still glaring once you zoom in. Even housing, which used to be Rochester's saving grace, is catching up to the mess. Prices are creeping higher, inventory is low, and many older properties need more repairs than your average HGTV flip. The school system is another sore spot. Chronic underfunding, high dropout rates, and achievement gaps make it a tough sell for families. Residents with means often look for alternatives, while those without are stuck hoping for systemic change that always seems just around the corner. And with every budget shortfall, the can gets kicked further down the road, leaving teachers, parents, and kids to carry the weight of promises that rarely materialize. Then there's the weather, because of course, in true upstate New York fashion, you can expect over 100 inches of snow a year. Combine that with icy winds whipping off Lake Ontario, and you've got yourself a winter that's less cozy snowfall and more Arctic endurance trial. Even the die-hard locals admit, you don't survive Rochester winters, you endure them. Yet here's the weird part: Rochester still has soul. Its people are resilient, its food scene is unexpectedly great. Garbage plate, anyone? And its cultural calendar stays full thanks to its arts and music communities. There's something admirable about the way residents cling to tradition and creativity, despite the challenges. But if you're thinking of moving here for the cheap rent and potential, be ready to trade some peace of mind for the privilege. Rochester isn't a bad date. It's the kind of date that charms you with good conversation, then asks if you can cover the bill because their wallet got stolen. Again. Number 2. Buffalo. When winter and worry tag team, Buffalo loves to call itself the city of good neighbors, and honestly, it earns that title. You'll need those neighbors when your car refuses to start in sub-zero weather, when the snowdrifts swallow your driveway whole, or when the wind coming off Lake Erie feels less like a breeze and more like nature personally trying to exfoliate your skin. The crime rate sits at 42.5 per 1,000 residents, which translates into about a 1 in 23 chance of running into trouble. And it's not neatly tucked into one corner of the city. It's scattered. Some neighborhoods are enjoying revitalization with shiny lofts and trendy cafes, while others still look like time stopped in 1984. Empty storefronts, cracked sidewalks, and a heavy sense that opportunity packed up and left decades ago. Median household income hovers around $48,500 with a 27.4% poverty rate, meaning more than a quarter of the city is trying to stretch pennies while dealing with rising costs. Buffalo has poured money and effort into reviving downtown, sprucing up the waterfront, and pumping life into its arts districts. But the reality? It's a patchwork quilt where half the squares are polished and colorful, while the other half are threadbare and fraying. And then there's the snow. Over 90 inches a year, much of it thanks to lake-effect storms that don't just sprinkle snow, they dump it in biblical proportions. We're talking about waking up to several feet of snow overnight, shoveling your driveway, and then finding it buried again 2 hours later. Buffalo winters aren't just a season, they're an endurance sport. You either adapt, buy industrial-strength snow gear, and embrace the madness, or you curl up and wonder why you didn't move to Florida when you had the chance. But Buffalo's unpredictability is what makes it exhausting. You can stroll down one block lined with craft breweries, bike lanes, murals, and boutique shops, feeling like you're in a comeback city success story. Then you turn the corner and bam! You're staring at boarded-up houses, potholes big enough to host a swimming pool, and streetlights that flicker like they're auditioning for a horror movie. That contrast keeps things interesting, sure, but if you're hunting for stability, Buffalo is one heck of a gamble. Still, the city's real magic is in its people. Buffalonians are gritty, passionate, and fiercely loyal. The type who will push your car out of a snowbank and then invite you over for wings and a Bills game. That community spirit is strong enough to keep residents rooted even when the economy, crime stats, and weather are screaming, "Run." But let's be real. Unless you're built for snowstorms, Rust Belt grit, and the occasional sketchy night out, living in Buffalo isn't just a love story. It's survival with a side of stubborn pride. Number 1. Newburgh. The crown jewel of chaos. If New York's worst cities were a reality show, Newburgh wouldn't just win. It would get the crown, the bouquet, and a spin-off series. Sitting on the Hudson River, the city has the kind of natural backdrop tourism brochures drool over. But step past the postcard view, and you'll find a place where the problems hit harder than the scenery can distract. The crime rate here is a staggering 55 per 1,000 residents, which means about a 1 in 18 chance you'll have a personal, you won't believe this story for your next family barbecue. And this isn't petty stuff like shoplifting candy bars. We're talking assaults, break-ins, robberies, and an undercurrent of tension that makes you double-check your locks, even in broad daylight. The median household income sits around $44,300, while over 25% of residents live below the poverty line. That combo creates a perfect storm of financial strain and limited opportunity. Jobs exist, sure, but many are low-wage, dead-end roles that barely cover rent, let alone leave room for savings. For many residents, survival is the game, not advancement. Housing is technically affordable, but affordable here is like buying a car with 3 flat tires and calling it a deal. You can find a house under $150,000, but brace yourself. Leaky roofs, outdated electrical wiring, and neighbors who've been fixing up their place since before dial-up internet. It's the kind of homeownership that feels more like a second job than an investment. And then there's the city's split personality. On one hand, you've got historic architecture, a waterfront that should be thriving, and proximity to New York City that screams potential. On the other, you've got blocks littered with boarded-up houses, neglected parks, and the kind of infrastructure that looks one snowstorm away from collapse. Revitalization projects pop up now and then, murals, pop-up shops, small business grants, but they often fizzle before they fix the deeper issues. The schools, struggling, the public services, overwhelmed. The roads, more pothole than pavement. Walking through downtown, you get this surreal sense of almost. Almost thriving, almost revitalized, almost fixed. But almost doesn't cut it when crime is high, paychecks are low, and residents are tired of hearing about potential while waiting for real change. Yet here's the wild thing. Newburgh has soul. The people here huff, resilient, and fiercely protective of their community. They'll gripe about the crime, the potholes, and the endless city council meetings that go nowhere. But they'll also show up to defend their neighborhoods, cookouts, and traditions. There's pride here, buried under the frustration, waiting for the right spark to light it up again. Until then, though, Newburgh remains the heavyweight champ of New York's cities to avoid. Gorgeous on a postcard, gritty up close, and a constant reminder that location alone can't save you. If you're moving for the Hudson River views, take the picture, enjoy the scenery, and then, for the love of your peace of mind, keep driving. And there you have it, the not-so-hidden underbelly of New York. From crumbling sidewalks to crime rates that double as stress tests, these towns prove that cheap housing and peaceful living often come with some fine print. If you've made it this far without packing your bags for Florida, congratulations, you're tougher than most of these winters. But here's the thing. Every place on this list still has people who love it, defend it, and call it home. Even if the rest of us are just stopping by for the food and leaving before nightfall. That's the magic of New York. No matter how rough it gets, somebody's grandma is still baking cookies, somebody's uncle is still yelling at the Bills game, and somebody's neighbor is still complaining about the potholes like it's a competitive sport. So now, it's your turn. Have you ever lived in or visited one of these towns? Did I nail it, or did I miss the one spot you'd never recommend even to your worst enemy? Drop your stories in the comments. I want the tea. And hey, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with that one friend who says, I'm thinking of moving upstate for a simpler life. Do them a favor. Save them the therapy bills.